In the mid-1980s, somewhere in movie Suburbia, a sexy vampire flexes like an umbrella on a doorstep while two teenagers defend their home with scalded cheeks. In without an invitation, I spy from my submissive couch through the ghostly blue glare of the TV set the lives of teenage boys and girls possessed by fantasies of sex next door while overprotective parents make bad watchouts. The shadows, long and awkward, scissor one another under jittery street lamps and midget clusters as the world comes to an end under the vigil of electricity. I don't know why this coming of age, of night, of end, of beginning scene is the setting for my critical feelings binding speed curating with a clenched fist. But there you go. A vampire, a home, an invitation, day falling into night, reality into fantasy, childhood into adulthood and back again. Certainly this constructed daydream is drenched in the loss of anticipating experiences yet to be experienced and futures of desire that adolescents can only dream or imagine through screens. Youth is always waiting for the future, willing it forward, waiting for things to happen as teenage me did in church and school, in the disco, on the corner of the pretty village I grew up in as a boy. I bullied the future into being before I was ready to experience it. The future never comes quick enough as a kid, and when it does, you want more future. Speed curating arrived at my doorstep a few years back, like the doorstep vampire that arrived out of the blue, eclipsing my attention as it pitched a quickie over something more generous. You can hear the artist reciting to himself the self-harming excuse, no harm in trying. Speed curating prefers a fast-track way past the bullshit into bigger bullshit. Note, my experience of speed curating is second-hand artist's regret. I am sure some artists have had a good time, some curators the worst time. What artist could deny an invitation to discuss their work with those at the doorstep of power, curators? What I first appreciate as a playful contrivance or ironical expropriation or even critical commentary on the mainstream and its fondling of speed over substance, speed curating, nothing less than an abomination, has become an annual tradition with more and more curators signing up, something that makes power relations between artist and curator more visible and more real. No harm, you might say again, let's show the art scene for what it really is, vampires and mirrors. But what if I say, look in the mirror? Unlike the morally free and mirror-free vampire, artists indeed have a reflection, a self, a soul, in the empathetic sense. If anything, artists are soulful mirrors. What do you see? What I see is a gangway of artists waiting to be invited en masse into a social get-together, something that would never happen naturally because the art scene is split between those that are visible and those that are not, those at the centre and those that are not, those who are not here and those that are. It's all good, democratic. It's like this. When the vampire crosses the doorstep, they suck your blood, the blush of childhood transfused in a greedy gush. A glamorous death for the short-lived. The immortal vampire, not under the pinch of death, is morally free. The moral artist, with the possibility of by-proxy immortality via the legacy of the artwork, is free, if not morally. We came out of our subcultural closets, tore down our bad-mannered posters, and straightened our Darwinian slouches, evolved from the beautiful shouldering of narcissism that is the artist's pain and pleasure, overnight, to meet the mainstream with open arms, a world that we had retreated from at the advent of becoming artists. Now we commandeer such mainstream stock phrases as sorry for cross-posting, we beg for acceptance, we worry about the unsolicited, the impolite, GDPR bollocks. Sorry for cross-posting is an apology with a silent but at the end of the beginning. If you lob on another T, you get but. Sorry for cross-posting is the implication of an arse without the shitstorm, or with the shitstorm depending on how far an artist will implicate their tongue in the arse of an apology that is neither sincere nor lives up to what an artist should never do, apologize. What happened was, once upon a time, an artist or few went to a professional workshop for artists, then another and another, before every artist went and shared the good professional advice delivered by curators and other career apologists, until we were left with artists making apologies en route to discrediting themselves by continue on with their whispering butts. Over the past 5 years, I've mentioned speed curating in passing as a critical example of how the contemporary artist has come to see themselves as a passive pawn in terms of the art administration that holds sway over the dissemination and display of their work. Speed curating is a depressing outcome of the hyper-professionalization of the artist and our art scene. Being professional meaning you get in line and wait for the ding-dong of the bell. Dong, dong, dong. Previous mentions of speed curating in my writing were propagandist in delivery and tone, sneering. It's an indefensible and easy target, never explicating why speed curating is wrong and should not be supported or facilitated by artist or curator or institution. I write this now on the night I receive an update on the forthcoming VAI get-together, where we are told 40 curators named in profile lay in waiting for the unnamed or unprofiled in the arid, salty, cracked desperation of the opportunity desert at the next event in November. We can make lemonade from this lemon, but the effort would make us look old and wrinkled, saving ourselves from something like conviction. The moral imperatives of generosity and kindness are lost in the self-serving lies of confirmation bias when money and careers are at stake. Kindness is a big word, generosity even bigger. Artists sometimes use the word generosity in relation to the time and attention given to them by other artists during their education, or just the day-to-day of being an artist. Generosity is rare. When given or received, it is spoken almost like a surprise, as if time and energy given over to someone else is a rare thing in the commodifying and on-the-clock culture. Generosity has nothing to do with money. Generosity is good, one-sided, an act of kindness, of sacrifice that, most of the time, is hidden from view. Generosity is about leveling the playing field, making everyone else into invisible men and women, even yourself, so that the receiver hears and trusts themselves in your empty presence, void of agenda or instrument. Generosity is all or nothing. It puts the giver on hold and the receiver at risk as they bleed out. With our blushing cheeks strained from the vampire of experience, maybe growing up is the real problem for the artist, whose childhood blush made them retreat under the covers of art, where being out of place was a virtue, not a shaming. Blush on.